Patrons, fans, subscribers, followers from around the world, welcome to the IR4 podcast. He's Brian Masterson, and I'm Jeremy Alexander Newsom, and today we're diving in and discussing the future of transportation. What does it look like? What's our opinions? What's our thoughts? We'd love to hear about what you think is going to be happening in the future. Post your comments below. Let us know what you think. Let's dive into this episode.
So what's your opinion, Jeremy? What's the future of transportation?
Oh, man. So much. What's interesting about the future of transportation is that people have gotten it so wrong looking back. Now, I'm not going to go, I'm the right guy. I'm going to get it right on this episode. But in 1970, 1980, they thought by 2020, we'd be flying, hovercrafts around. Everyone would have plane vehicles, pretty much. And that never happened, at least not yet. Not really on a full scale.
Here's one of the most interesting little bits of how the Model T and Henry Ford came into existence. Everyone used horse and buggies and carriages for ground transportation.
Yeah.
And so I heard that innovators were looking at animals as the means of transportation.
Right.
So they saw the horse with the buggy and the carriage and everything,
right,
and how that was starting to evolve. But then it was kind of like, all right, what's the next step? And then we started looking to the sky and they started seeing birds. So all right, well, how can we start, and I'm sure some people had some crazy ideas, let's just wrangle up a bunch of birds, hook them up to harnesses, and we can fly around.
That had to have happened at some point.
Probably had to have been someone in some rash. It's crazy.
That's a good idea.
Da Vinci had some crazy flying contraptions, but I think what was so neat that Henry Ford did was he focused on an inexpensive way for everyone to get around, and that was everyone from inside the city to the outskirts, a reliable, dependable means of transportation. Some of his documentaries are absolutely awesome, but I think you saw the birth of the first industrial revolution, maybe into the second, but you have the assembly line, all of the things, all the innovative ideas that came out of that time were just so revolutionary, right? I think what we've seen now, or what we're seeing now, is a disruption to the modern way of how we operate, given the internet. Mm-hmm. And I reference Uber, and Lyft, and
huge.
Like the small little taxi cabs were probably a steady growth market since motorcades or automobiles were created. People were like, I'll drive people around. But again, I think the true innovators in the travel world are looking at what tools does everyone have now, and how can we expand on our current means of transportation given those tools. There's private jet
tons of them
apps, and I think Skyscanner is one that looks at all these different flights. There's whole businesses that revolve around travel sites and getting the cheapest deal.
And the disruption of travel.
So I feel
and it's so cheap now. Travel is so inexpensive. People all the time go, when I have tons of money, I'll go travel. You can do that now. It's not that bad.
So I don't know if the real game-changing, innovative turn is going to be something that involves software and the internet, or if it's going to be something that is truly technical and mechanical.
That's a very good point. And what's interesting is, going forward, I think transportation will be one of our biggest issues, because what's happening is people are growing. Mm-hmm. Well, people are growing. You have more people on the earth. Population's growing. Yeah. Cities are about the same size, but they're growing. But once you build a foundation, you have the roads.
Right.
And you have the infrastructure, like Nashville. The roads are the same size. So if you get 10 million people, the roads are the roads. And you have those problems in Philadelphia, Boston, New York City, San Francisco. The roads are only so big, and they've already grown. So what are they going to do to that infrastructure? And that's where you're going to have this teetering effect, where there will be some type of change. And that's a great question. Will it be a mechanical, physical product, or will it be a software like an Uber or a Lyft, which was just an astronomical game changer?
Or an intersection of the both, which I think is what we're seeing with Tesla and self-driving cars. You're having the mechanical interface and the software interface combined, and now you have self-driving cars. I mean, I think self-driving cars are going to be, I think it's a small little blimp as to what the real next phase is.
Agreed, yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, self-driving cars. Well, what's
that's
real,
easy.
what's next?
People have been wanting that forever.
Yeah, that's, we say it's easy, but it just takes a hell of a lot of work, which Musk is doing, you know, and Tesla and Google, I mean, there's people out there that are executing on that. But what is the next wave? I think it was yesterday I was talking with someone in California who stated that there's a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure play for a train to just run up and down the coast of California.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, a high-speed bullet type train, that makes sense. You look at the Euro, like how Europe and their rail system operates. We really don't have a huge something like that in America.
No, not really at all.
But I think it's probably because the states are a bit spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still travel via rail, but
sure.
I don't think we've seen a huge innovative turn on the rail system.
No, ours is more industrial for sure.
Right.
You know, like I've never in my life ridden a train in the States.
Yeah, neither have I. Which is insane.
Yeah.
Well, I have from upstate New York down to the city, but I mean,
well, yeah, I'm not really counting like subway. I'm talking like a
long distance,
like a long distance train.
How fun that would be! Like,
that would be cool.
If you or a riverboat gambling trip, like from Nashville down over to the Mississippi, down to like New Orleans. Oh, heck yeah!
That'd be really fun. But I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about it's not going to be the self-driving thing is already here.
Yeah.
It has to be some type of consciousness connection where companies or people are doing their best to disrupt how many lives are lost driving. It's interesting because very few people even talk about that as a big issue. And again, political stance aside, gun control or drugs or drug policies, all of those things grouped together kill swaths of less people than driving.
I mean, if you think about what a vehicle is. You're getting behind a machine that can just destroy things.
Whatever it is you want, man. And the thing is, think about it. When you're driving here today, boop, one sharp jerk of that wheel, game over. Like you're changing lives across the board. And autonomous vehicles may solve that to an extent, but now we're going to have to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, consciousness built into a vehicle. And that is where I see the future going, because we're going to need the transportation to be safer, massively safer, because we're losing. I mean, I think cars kill more people than anything else other than heart disease. I mean, it's high.
It's probably up there.
It's very high. I mean, you have alcohol car-related deaths. You know, I mean, it's super, super up there. And because you don't need anything else, there's no real governance other than a driver's license. And you don't even need a driver's license to get into a car. You just get into a car, crank the turn, and you're gone.
Yeah.
Finish
your thoughts.
It's okay. So I was going to say something to that extent, that built-in consciousness. I think the closest that we got was when you have to blow into your car to determine if you can start it, like if you're sober enough to drive. That innovation in itself is so simplistic and yet revolutionary, but yet no one really does it.
Well, I mean, that is an interesting point, and it's like that. And I don't know. I mean, I think I've only seen it on like TV shows or movies, but those devices look very outdated.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I've never seen one in person.
Either have I. I feel like there could be or should be a way where it can be easily incorporated into some feature of a new wave car.
Yeah.
But, I heard Ford isn't doing any of the sedans or anything anymore. They're sticking with trucks and SUVs. But you look at, again, population growth. I would love to look at the sales in the automotive industry, because you have people in these pockets of metropolitan areas that are Ubering everywhere. And now, Uber is just insane, killed it.
Yeah.
But the bike systems that cities have, the scooters that we were just talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I mean, if all these people are living within a 1 mile radius of where they work or downtown or whatever, they're walking, but also now people are catering towards those foot traffickers by giving them the tools to get around, like a city bike or like a scooter or whatever.
Yep. The first time I saw that in mass was in San Diego. We were at not too long ago. We were walking around the beach, and you had the birds. I think they're called birds or levos or whatever. And it's the scooter that you're talking about. So you go up. Everyone knows, I'm sure, what this is that is watching. But you pretty much go to the scooter. It has an app. You swipe a QR code or show a QR code. It bills to your phone like an app would, $1, whatever it is. And that's so innovative. Like, it locks the wheel.
Yeah.
So if you're not paying for it, so no one can, and if you steal it, they have GPS on them, so people can see where they're at all given times of the day. I mean, there were people flying around on these things, hundreds of people, just everywhere you go. And I mean, could that be a time where people just don't walk anymore? You know, are sidewalks a thing of the past? Or we just build people movers everywhere?
Well, I mean, to expand on that, why do you need a car?
Why do you need a car?
I mean, if you think about it, like, I could have Ubered over here from my house today. It's not that far. We're coming in the studio once or twice a week. Or if I'm going to a bar, I definitely am going to Uber. If I'm going to have some drinks or having a meeting off site. But if my office is at home or close to home, like, am I going to pay for gas, pay for car insurance, the actual car in itself? I feel like cars are becoming more of a luxurious item for people, because what utility are they providing given all these other tools?
You know what I have seriously considered? I haven't done the numbers yet, but I think I will after this conversation. So my car right now is totally paid off. I don't have any car note or anything.
That's great.
And the next car that I buy, I would like a nicer car, but I'm trying to figure out if I should even buy one.
Or lease one.
Well, not even that. Not even lease it. Like, mathematically, as much as I leave the house and travel and things like that, could I just Uber or even rent a car for a day? Or 2 days? Or a week?
Well, now there's this, I think there's this other app where you can rent people's cars.
Yeah, I have that. I have that app. And it's sick, man. You can rent whatever car you want. An Audi A8, boom, and I'm renting one.
Yeah. Let's say you're going to a high-class business meeting and you want to roll up in style. Perfect. There's your whatever it is. Or let's say you have shit to move around the house and you need a pickup truck and to take to a storage unit. Boom.
Bam. And I'm trying to decide, I need to mathematically figure it out, if it's just more financially feasible to just do that. Because if I can go, and I might even have to try it for a month, like just sell my car or put my car and say, all right, I'm not going to touch it, and just try it for a month and just see how it works. Because I think you're right. I think they're a luxury item at this point, and the question is, do we even need them?
Right.
With all the software that's coming out. And if you take a road trip, I could rent a car.
Sure.
How much more are you going to be spending in insurance? You're still going to spend on gas regardless, and just your automatic car payment. Are those the only two things you have to spend?
For my car
payment.
I do car payment, insurance, but like I just reached 100,000 miles. And that was a $1,600 bill to get all the fluids washed and replaced, and spark plugs and all that. So you're going to have maintenance costs, obviously, involved with. But that's not every month, and it's variable effect on how much you're driving.
Dude, subscription services for cars will become a thing where people pay $300 a month, and now you can hop in your car whenever you want. It changes when you're not an entrepreneur, though. Okay, so for someone like you and I, it's easier because we don't have jobs. we're job. I mean, we do whatever we want from wherever in the world. So that's different. So I mean, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you have to get there, you're going to need a car. Or do you? Like, could you create a subscription service where you go, hey guys, we're going to meet at this time. You know, every single day we'll come pick you up. Your carpool, you can be on your phone. You know, and you get like a van, you pick people up and they pay X amount of dollars and they can just sleep more or whatever, and they can just cut the cost of the car and it's cheaper.
I mean, I think we're talking about just advancing what's already been in place, like a bus system. I mean,
a better bus system, because Nashville doesn't really it does have a bus system, but it's not great. Have you ever used it?
I've never used Metro bus systems. I haven't ridden the bus since grade school, but there's no knock to that. It's a great means of protect.
For sure, but I'm just saying.
I have at one point my older car transmission blew and I was out, didn't have a car, and my wife had things going on, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get on I'm outside Nashville metropolitan area, so I had to look at the smaller city trolley service. But I've mapped out where it goes. I'm like, all right, well, if I got on here, I can get off here, and it is insanely inexpensive. It's like $1 to ride the
It's
bus.
not expensive, but it's a headache. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things you have to do.
I mean,
it's not expensive at all.
If you're responsible and you can be a good time manager and you look when it's going to get there and I'm here, okay, now drive. But like it's.
Well, it's also a whole different world depending on where you live in the States.
Yes.
Like if you live in the South, you probably don't do, unless you live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Other than Atlanta, that's the only city that I know in the South that's really big on public transportation.
Yeah.
Like Miami, not really. Nowhere in Florida, to my knowledge. Like Jacksonville's not real. I mean, Tallahassee, definitely no. Raleigh, North Carolina, no. Yeah, Orlando.
Tampa?
No, not really. Not unless you're in the theme park, then you have like the things. But you have Atlanta, and then anywhere else, even Dallas or Houston. I mean, both of those, not really.
I still don't know why the rail system is not utilized more for public transportation.
Yeah, at least
now
here
you
in the
have
States.
you have the little. Well, I think the reason why New York's rail system and subway system is so robust and people use it is because it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
If you look
They
look at the Western expansion, okay, yeah, I know San Francisco has obviously their service, but I'm trying to think of the cities I've been in, including Nashville. We don't have a light rail system, or or any type of means of transportation by rail. Amtrak is like the only thing for long distances.
Yeah.
But why? I mean, and I know the infrastructure play it costs a lot of money. You're using a lot of property. You're probably disrupting a road or two, or quite a few roads, especially if you're running down a middle of a road.
Or the environment, if you're going under or over.
Dude,
there's so many things to work with.
There's so many people in Nashville that were lobbying not to have the rail system put in, and it didn't pass.
Right.
But it was disrupting neighborhoods, and I mean,
exactly. So you have a lot of that to factor in.
And people were complaining about the riffraff that would come in from one side of the city to the other.
The riffraff.
Yeah, and it's like, well, these people can get on for $1 and they can come over here and they're in our grocery stores. I mean, I feel like that's a very, very closed-minded,
for sure,
egotistical type of thought process. But
people have them.
I don't think people understand that the greater Nashville area is a very affluent area of the country.
Yeah,
there's a lot of money here.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people who have established mansions and homes and $1 million neighborhoods here that don't want it to be disrupted. It's a close. I think it's a close kept secret.
Yeah. And
so you're going to run into these little factors, I think, in every different city or area. But I think I think we as a global community can always make a more conscious effort into cutting emissions costs, or not emissions costs, but emissions, and not affecting our environment as much as we are now. Eco-friendly cars had that little pop and wave. I don't know how big they are now, but grocery stores have the plug-in for the cars.
Yeah.
Like, when I first saw those, I'm like, oh my God, in 10 years, every spot's going to have one of those.
Right.
No.
And
I've maybe see one car in there every month.
It's not much, yeah. Well, because you're changing an entire system. I mean, you're changing people's beliefs and opinions and thoughts on power, how much power can have, how long it can go.
I think in order to...
how it sounds.
And I guess we can go back to the deaths associated by automobiles.
Yeah.
We can look at the negative effects in certain industries and if you focus on those and say, hey, this is a total game-changing, disruptive idea that we have here, people will listen, but I think people will be more keen to listen. I think mass adoption happens when you either do two things.
Okay.
One of two things. You make it more cost-friendly or less time-consuming for end user.
Yeah.
More convenient, if you will. Just like Uber did, just like Airbnb did. If you're saving money and time, I mean, the one thing you can never get back in this world is time.
Yeah.
The second thing, most valuable thing that people, I think, look at as high on the priority list is their monetary assets.
Right.
And spending money, and I just feel like if you're saving two people money or time, they're going to be more prone to use your services versus others that may cost more or take longer to adopt or to fully use.
Yeah, and I've seen also on Facebook and other social media that vehicle that goes on top of the road.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Whereas like passing above all the vehicles, it's kind of like So you just have like these two grooves in the road, and you put these grooves, and you just like it's like a bus that just passes over everybody. And they're really trying to adopt that in China because it would save people time, less traffic, less traffic jams. Is there a future without cars? Like, I mean, do we really fly at some point where that becomes an adoption? I don't think so. I think that's out. I think all flying is out because you have airspace. And if you just have random people just doing whatever they want, I mean, think how many more deaths will happen in the air than on the ground.
Dude, the whole aerospace is so controlled.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it ever happens.
I don't think so either.
Because that's the government. The government controls the air. You have like the cities and the local places, they control the ground, but the government.
I don't think that in our lifetime we'll ever see us moving away from automotive vehicles. Now I feel like maybe automobiles will become more efficient, but for us to be riding on 2 or 3, 4 wheels on roads with lights and everything, I don't see how that goes away. There's just too many people that utilize that service.
I think you're right. It's ingrained in our system. It's that freedom. Just like guns will never be taken away from Americans. That'll never happen. Again, political stance aside, it just won't. It's ingrained in what makes America America for whatever reason. So we have like the horse transportation. I'm an independent American. I don't think it ever goes away. And not that America started vehicles when we did with Ford. I mean, that was more or less the pinnacle of it. But now that it's adopted in all parts of the world, that's something that's just going to have to be there for a while until we do either space, I should say, air or space. Like, I don't think we're ever going to do flying vehicles. It's never going to happen. To an extent, like mass adoption, no way.
I think it's more. It's more mass, not mass adoption, but more mass movement, meaning there's going to be large vehicles moving a lot of people around. Well, I mean, you look at airplanes, but, dude, and we've talked about this on a previous podcast with the pilot. But, I mean, those things are so outdated. Like, why is there no innovation on making aircrafts faster, on making them more efficient? I mean, there's like
especially the fuel efficiency. That's going to be
holy
huge.
shit! Fuel efficiency on airplanes is insane.
It's astronomically bad.
Think of the savings if you could create a way to build an airplane that doesn't use jet fuel the way that current airplanes do now. Well, I mean, get a fleet of 10 and fly them around the southeast for 5 years, then move on to, the eastern coast, and then expand. I mean, you could destroy it. You totally innovate the game.
And that's going to be the energy. Energy is going to be the future. I mean, that you have to figure that out. You figure that out. Parts of that, you totally revolutionize transportation because we need that as a society, is to figure out just how to make it more efficient, more less expensive.
Maybe this is the conspiracy theorist in me, but
oh boy,
I don't think that oil and gas will ever. I want to take that back. It will, but in our lifetime, I don't see us moving away from oil and gas from a mass consuming standpoint.
No, I don't see
it's just too big, and the intricacies and the networks of companies and governments. There's too much money to be lost. Just to
stroke your ego. There's only one way that happens.
Okay.
Bitcoin becomes a predominant currency in the world. All currencies collapse, and all of the countries.
That's very true.
All the countries file bankruptcy. I mean, that's the only way it happens. The whole world goes, all right, guys, we need to restock.
Even if a country files for bankruptcy,
the whole world, we're off oil, let's start over, we press the big red button, all debts are cleared, student loans.
That's not going to happen.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's not going to happen at all. That's not going to happen. So since that will not happen, you might have 1 or 2 world powers that go down because that will happen. Right? America, as a world power, will evaporate over time. The only reason I'm saying that is because that is history, right? I would consider myself to be a historian. So I mean, it happened in Babylon, it happened in Greece, it happened in Rome, it happened in Egypt, Mesopotamia, Britain, or I should say England. All world powers before us have all vanished to some extent. It doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I don't want to say civilizations, but which one of those countries or established governmental hierarchies were around the longest?
That's a great question. I mean, you'd have to get you'd have some arguments between some different historians regarding the longest. I would have to say Egypt. I mean, Egypt was around,
I think,
of thousands of years. But I mean, Rome was also around for a
now, how long? When was
time.
America's independence birth?
1776.
76.
Yeah.
So we are only
coming up on 300.
That's not a lot of time.
No.
I feel like we're going through some trials and tribulations as a country, but I feel like there's another huge, strong comeback that is prone to happen for our government and our society here in the United States.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the reason I was bringing that up is because I agree with you. I don't think we go off of oil because it is so ingrained in what the world is built on. It's built on that.
I don't think that, and I don't mean to stay on this tangent line, but I think it's important to say, America, given through Henry Ford and even Carnegie, and we're talking about transportation, moving people around, was a huge facet of how we got from a small starter company to this big behemoth of a country.
Yeah.
I mean, doing a whole lot of shit. Importing and exporting, being able to move goods from one side of the country to another through a rail system, the steel industry, and then having those entrepreneurial giants bail the country out and give us financial backing as a government, created us into this. I think what happened is that we had this innovative birth in the world that no one has ever seen, given transportation. So I'm still keeping on topic here, but we started to get fat and happy and complacent, and I think the consumerism mentality overtook everyone. I mean, I think it's still very apparent in our society today. Just we want more, keep spending, and that has gotten us into this pitfall where we didn't really look ahead of the innovative curve and what we should be working on, other than a few individuals like Apple and Musk and Amazon and some of those, the tech gurus, if you will. But you look at the financial element of our society and the instruments that were put together, totally careless. Totally careless.
Right.
And it caused the economy just to take a huge shit.
Right.
But in the meantime, you have other countries looking at the innovative curve, such as China, and you look at who controls the majority of the U.S. debt. I mean, it's insane. So I think what needs to happen is we need another spark and innovative genius that happened back then with all these industrial revolutionists,
to continue to fuel it.
To continue to turn us around and get us back on track as being the powerhouse of the world.
Right. Well, I think that's what the fourth industrial revolution will become, not just the podcast. But
not just a podcast.
But in essence, I think the next thing going forward probably would not be a singular governmental agency, but a global one. Meaning, so if you go and watch some 2500 AD, and they're in the space and they're doing Star Trek thing, it's called like the Global Alliance or the Global Space Fleet or whatever. Because what had happened at that point 500 years down the road is it turned out, all right guys, we can't really do this on our own. Like we can't survive independently as America and China and Russia and Denmark and Finland and Brazil. We're just going to become the Global Alliance. So like United Nations, right? But we're just going to be the global force for good. And everyone takes down their flags, and they have one flag, has a Bitcoin symbol on it. I'm just kidding. But they have that one flag, and that, I think, is what can truly... I mean, if we're talking about world peace, that wouldn't bring world peace, but that would get close enough. Well, because then you remove so many things. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because if you need a giant shift, that would probably happen after all singular economies fail. Because this next crash that's coming, a decade from now, 2 decades from now, in our lifetime.
You think...
our lifetime.
You think a stock market crash?
Much worse than that.
Just total,
yeah.
Civilian...
Bad.
Like
man.
uprising anarchy type shit?
Yeah, I think so. And it's going to have to do with currency. It's going to be a currency bubble. It's not going to be a Bitcoin or a dollar. It's going to be a debt. Like, we can't afford this with what we're using now. So it's going to have, the stock market will have a 75%, 80% crash. in our lifetime, and it'll be at the domicile of just this phenomenal like world record earnings. Dow's at 100,000, right? And you're just going to see it go down to Dow 30,000. I mean, that would be a 70% crash, which would be funny enough. Is it still be higher than what it is now if Dow's at 30,000? But you'll see that, and that'll be that just like, oh my gosh, like massive thing. But that would create so much change, and when that occurs, it's not going to be companies that go bankrupt, it'll be countries. And when countries go bankrupt, they're going to have to figure out a way to get everything linked together.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also believe, I really do find myself thinking about this quite often lately. Think of the lack of just infrastructure in all these other countries around the world.
Yeah,
and I think
so
we are very blessed, and I think we take for granted a lot of what we have as Americans, as North Americans in the Western world. We take for granted all these luxury type of items as everyday things. Clean water. I mean, having
Absolutely.
a roof. It's that's insane.
Yeah.
And I saw this video the other day, a couple weeks ago, of a Ukrainian soldier fight, and this is like real time in our modern world.
Yeah.
Just loading up a saw and just spraying a field. It's just like, what is the point of fighting? And I'm not trying to sound like a hippie, but the amount of, I just can't believe that there's still people who think it's okay to dedicate their life to going out and killing other people. It's
Right.
one thing to go protect and serve, and it's another thing to just go out and
Yeah, of course.
destroy. And I don't want to get into a military type of debate, but that's a huge facet as well that has a lot of money behind it.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think a currency collapsing revolutions. I mean, and everyone may say it's going to be very bad, but it ultimately will be for the better.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that have said that it's going to be coming. I think they're just really off on their timing. I'm not saying I'm the great guy, but it's going to be a lot earlier, because the rule is if everyone knows it's happening, it's not going to happen.
Well, I was going to say, like, these people who always predict the dollar's going to collapse and go run to gold and all that.
Yeah. They're early.
I appreciate it, and I think they're smart, but you can say that for 30 years and it can happen. You'd be like, I told you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I just got a text message like 3 hours ago from someone saying, hey man, when's the big correction coming? I want to put some cash in. And I go, dude, we just got it. Like back in February. Like when the stock market pulled back 11, 12%.
Yeah.
In 3-4 days.
Yeah.
I was like, that was it.
Yeah.
That was they happen very fast. So we're going to be back off to the races for a while. But to flip back on it, I mean, it's those innovations that we're going to need, regardless if it's currency or energy or transportation. It's going to require conversations like this with people sitting down and really putting pen to paper and formulating thought that provides people an opportunity to really uncover problems. Because that's how you make change. You have to find out what is a problem.
Absolutely.
And problem number one, a lot of people die in cars. So how do we solve that problem?
Sure.
And I think Uber and Lyft are doing a really good job. I don't know the statistics. I'd love for someone to do that and do a little bit of research and figure out how has DUIs gone down or gone up since Uber and Lyft. I mean,
those would be interesting data points to look
I think it'd be very interesting. Car accidents, because most people, we could be honest, if it's a fatal car accident, it usually involves alcohol, I would assume.
some type of carelessness.
Some type of carelessness invoked by some type of thing that you have in your system. And I'd be really interested to see if Uber and Lyft had an impact on that. I don't think that was their intention.
No.
Maybe it was, I don't know. But that's the thing, is you have to solve a problem, figure out what that problem is, figure out some solutions, and with transportation, there's a lot of them. And that's what I'm telling all my hungry entrepreneurs and business owners out there. Start looking into transportation, because it might not be me, it might not be you, probably won't be us. But there will be someone out there who go, oh, that's a really good idea. Let me dive into this aspect. Like, I mean, subways in New York City didn't have AC for the longest time. So it sounds crazy, but just putting an AC in a subway was just like, for most people, like, that's a massive problem. And then you have all these people in subways, so they do advertising on subways. So you have this whole, economy that's created on outdoor advertising in subways. And so now you create more jobs. And so all of that problem fixing.
There's going to be it's a fractalized effect. When you solve one thing, or when you introduce a new idea or concept or solution into the world, there's going to be other people looking at it, and how can we make this better, or how can we add to it? And it just lightning bolt effects and flourishes into something that's much more bigger than what the initial intent was set out to be.
Yeah.
And I think
you're so right.
What you mentioned was what people need to start doing is talking about it. And I will say this. For as much shit that millennials get, I think that millennials have been and are coming out of this position where it's just like, you know what? Fuck the modern world. What's going on? I'm going to sit back. I'm not going to do what the normalcy of the world was, which is go to school, get a 9 to 5, get married, have kids. There's still people who do that, but I think for the majority of this next generation,
right,
it's been, I'm going to enjoy myself, but I'm also going, and I think what is happening right now is that this generation is starting to have a little bit more of a critical mind and ask these questions, and people are going out and sharing ideas with each other, and people are spending lunches and personal time after work or during work or whatever it is in these incubator type environments. But I think we're seeing the birth of these revolutionary type of ideas, hence why we started the podcast on the fourth industrial revolution. We're looking at all these new onsets of innovative advancements, mainly around technology, but with the technology, it's going to disrupt all these other sectors. And I think, I say it almost every podcast, blockchain is the number one innovative factor right now in where we're going.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how the good old DLT will see what kind of impact that would have on automobiles, transportation. I think that's an interesting. I haven't put my brain to that yet to try to figure out what that even look like, what innovations would it cause, what solutions would it bring. But I could see tons. I mean, if we're looking at just fuel efficiencies and battery power, if you take the Tesla coil of what it could do, and you're driving by a station, an electric station, it can just pulse out beams of energy to you as you're driving. You wouldn't have to stop. Same thing with a plane. I mean, they have those refueling planes are crazy. The ones that come up behind you, sorry, you come up behind it.
Yeah, and it has the hose that comes up.
It has a hose and they plug in, and they just that was crazy. That was a crazy concept. But there has to be an easier way than that.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned earlier the energy element. I mean, if we can find a way to harvest or find more energy without having to burn or use natural resources, I think that's just absolute game changer, Yeah. But who knows what that is going to be. So
back to your question, because here's something that I want to challenge myself with. Do you think we're ever going to run out of oil, or is it a substance that we think or that we're taught is limitless, but it's actually like unlimitless?
All right. So without getting too philosophical here,
okay. Like an accountable infinity. Like there's so much. Like they could end, but
so oil is simply oil. Nuclear power.
Okay.
Solar. It's so what oil. What you do with oil is you use it and you burn it to create energy.
Right.
And it's just a transfer from its state of substance into something else. Right. And that usually makes power, which makes a car go, and then there's the emissions, but it's just a transfer of energy.
Yeah, energy can never be created or destroyed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think that everyone looks at oil's in the ground. Okay, now we extract it, now we use it.
Yeah.
How did it get there? And so it's almost like re-engineering the process to create oil. And
correct.
There's a guy out in California, I think we were talking before this podcast, has a way to, and it's patented, to consolidate waste, plastic, wood, in a small underground reservoir. And I don't know, I have no idea how the process works. I'm sure some of you guys out there can help us, but it gets transferred into usable oil. So I think that if everyone looks at the process of how we've been doing things for a few decades, how can we, just looking at the reengineering process of how it works, is there something where, we can, I don't know what it is, I don't know what the solution is, but since energy can never be created nor destroyed, only transferred, what is the energy that's coming out of our consumption? And everyone says it's just terrible. I saw an article today that the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, inside our atmosphere, is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff it's doing, and I'm not trying to get political down a global warming type of conversation, but what can we do to harvest these, let's say they're hazardous materials? Why can't someone think of an idea or think of a way to suck those fumes in, or
or just use what's up there, use the bad stuff and use it for something else.
And I don't know how you truly harness that energy, but it's there. Right. It's something of
something of value.
Yeah, it's just
like transferred from here to here.
This is wood, right? Yeah. And you want to heat something, like you can use this, and it's almost like recycling, right? You use something, but then you're going to reuse it for something else. Okay, so we're using oil and gas. Why aren't we recycling oil and gas? Well, we don't know how to do that yet. Mm-hmm. So nuclear. I mean, there's a you can't really recycle solar, but there's ways where we can consume and harvest clean energy, but not to the effect that will help us. That will satisfy our consumption needs.
Right. Yeah.
Just because I don't think the systems are as advanced as the oil system is yet.
Dude, here's the thing that probably frustrates me the most, is that, and it frustrates all of humanity, is I won't be here to see all that happen. Because I know, dude, 1,000 years from now, just in my view of the world and my perception and my really just research into history and what things have done, what I'm talking about, like after that giant crash happens, which is just mathematical certainty at some point, boom bust cycle, like it always happens. The thing that will come out of that, and we can't even fathom right now.
Yeah.
Like 500-600 years down the road, 1,000, 2,000 years down the road, like how far we've come in 2,000 years is going to be astronomical. There's probably robots right now in the future laughing at us. Like, we already know this, dude. We're really cool.
Well, then I will get a tad bit philosophical, and I think that then if you look at, we're not able to get to that. We're not going to be able to see that, right? So then what the hell is the point of being here and talking about all this? And I think that the point of doing all this and living this life is to help better humanity.
To impact that.
Yes,
and absolutely.
Whether you have children or going to have children or plan on having children or not, there is going to be future generations of human beings coming to Earth.
Always.
And I think as an adult growing up, there was a lot of hardworking people. Even watching those documentaries on Ford and people going to the factory and building cars, they were able to feed the next generations. And if it wasn't for the people then feeding the generations to get us to where we need to go so that we can be able to have this conversation on camera, I think it's all about advancement of humanity and doing what's best for the global consciousness and the global good.
Yeah.
And having fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And if you can make some cash and I think you told me money is just a means to an end.
Yeah, man.
Right? And if you can snatch some of that money off and doing some fun, good deeds, and you want to go spend it on some fun things to do for, go see the world and whatnot, go see the impact that you're having, by all means, go do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're totally right. And it's about that mission, and that's, the quote, it's better to be led by your dreams than pushed by your problems. Kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah, is you have that vision of I'm going to make the future better, and that's what drives me, man. Because I'm always about. I'm working on now. I'm reading the book by Eckhart Tolle, Living in the Now. That's not what it's called, but trying to focus on a little bit more because I'm always like out here. I'm always out there, and it's like, all right. Well, sometimes it's good to come back because the statement is there is no past, there is no future, there's only right now.
Sure.
That's all we have.
Yeah,
you can't go back, can't go forward.
And you can the spectrum of thought can go all the way out to the future and all the way back to the Big Bang.
Yeah.
You know, so you can think about all that, but unless you are living in the now and being at peace with who you are and what you're doing and how you're helping people, I mean, that's a huge facet people need to take in consideration when they wake up in the morning and think about what they're going to go do for the day.
Right.
You know?
Yep. I
So
agree.
enjoying the moment and, you know, living life to the fullest and helping other people is, I think, the secret sauce.
Secret sauce, folks. Go make some. I hope that was a cerebral pyromaniac session for your brain right there. Thanks so much for being here and being a part of the IR4 podcast. We truly appreciate it. Great things to come in the future. Right after this camera episode's over, we're going to be talking about how do we grow, how do we expand, how do we enrich more lives, how do we create more brain waves. You're amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, love, live, learn. We'll see you all later. Bye.